At my son's high school graduation, my parents announced they were taking over his college fund for my nephew. My husband laughed and said, "That's funny because we moved it last month." My parents screamed when they realized. High school graduation, my parents announced they were taking over his college fund for my nephew instead. My husband laughed and said, "That's funny because we moved it last month." My parents started screaming when they realized. I still remember the moment everything shattered. The night should have been a celebration. My son Ethan had worked his butt off for years, nailing AP classes, balancing part-time jobs, juggling extracurriculars, and finally, after all that hard work, he'd been accepted into his dream college. The whole family had come together to celebrate. At least, that's what I thought. We'd chosen a nice steakhouse for dinner. Something special. Even though my parents and I had never seen eye to eye, I needed them there. I wanted them to share in this milestone for Ethan. But my parents, they had other plans. As the waiter set our drinks on the table, my mom picked up her glass with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, clinked it with a fork, and then stood up. The room went quiet. The air thickened. She cleared her throat dramatically, looked around, and then said it. The words that cut through the evening like a knife. "We've decided to take Ethan's college fund and give it to his cousin Jason instead. He needs it more." Silence. I froze, my heart racing. Ethan's face turned ghostly pale, his eyes flicking to mine. My husband, Mark, tightened his grip on his fork. And my younger daughter, she stared at us, not understanding why the tension was suffocating the room. My dad nodded like this was perfectly fine. "It's what's best for the family," he added, as if that somehow justified everything. "Jason's had a rough time, and this will really help him get his life back on track." Jason, my nephew, the kid my parents had always chosen over my kids, the one they'd bailed out of trouble time and time again, the one who never faced consequences. And suddenly, here we were at my son's graduation dinner being told that his future, the future he had worked so hard for, was being handed to the kid who didn't deserve it. The heat in my face was rising. All those years of swallowing my frustration, of letting my parents dismiss my kids in favor of my brother's family, it all boiled over in that moment. But before I could say anything, Mark leaned back in his chair, took a sip of his beer, and of course, he had the perfect response. A low, almost amused chuckle escaped his lips, and he said,